Let's see. Okay, today we're going to start at the new Mishnah on Lamed Zayin. 37. 37a. Have it over there. We learned last night, so we caught up. We're up to date. Hashem. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. And in the course of our learning, we should have the base of Mikdash. Is there someone else I was supposed to mention? There's we're learning in the Lili Nishmas to have a gold of Aspar Binyamin.
The tunnels have been Metzia.
The tunnels have been Metzia. Okay, and whoever needs to refuah shleima. There was someone that used to come to the share, but he passed away. Came a few times. Okay. The Mishnah starts like this. We've had this Mishnah quoted, I think in Baba Kama, other places. Amar l'shnayim, gazalti lechen mikem mana v'eni deis mikem. Someone says to two people, he says, I stole from one of you, I just don't know which one of you it was. I took something. Well, a mana, it was $100. That's case number one. Case number two is one of your fathers has deposited with me money, and I don't remember who it was, and they don't know either, right? Because it was their father. So he has to pay both of them. So in both of these cases, both by the theft, where he doesn't remember who he stole from, and the pikadon, where he doesn't remember who gave him the money, he has to pay both of them back. And the Mishnah explains shahidim mipiatzmi because he's coming on his own in admitting his own admission. Very good. Very good. Rabbi Akiva's view. Very good. Where do you remember that from? Where was that in Baba Kama?
Dr. Stein said, Rav Tarfon, just like put it and run. Rabbi Akiva was the one.
Very good. Hill's reminding me that there's a machlekes Rav Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva regarding this. The Gemara is going to quote it soon. Okay. The emphasis over here, Shaidim Piatzme, is going to be very significant because the Gemara is going to say that he's Balatzis Yidei Shemayim. This maybe it wouldn't be something that they would be able to claim from him in court, but because he's coming to satisfy his obligation in heaven. So in order to satisfy that, so that you have to pay to both of them. Okay. He doesn't, so he has to pay both. Yeah, it gets expensive. If anyone's thinking of stealing, they should remember who it's from. Two people give someone money to hold, to watch for them. One of them gives $100, the other one gives $200. When it comes time to collect it back, this one says, Shalim Masayim, I gave you the 200. And this one says, Shalim Masayim, I gave you the 200. So the rule is, you only pay 100 to each of them. And the rest, that third 100 that they're arguing over, that you don't give back, you leave it until. That's Tanakama's opinion. I'm sorry. Oh yeah? Okay. You leave it until Eliyahu comes. Amar Rabbi Yaisi argues with this. He says, so the liar that tried his best to get the 200, he's not losing out anything. He's not going to admit. Rather, you don't give anything back. Don't give it to anyone. That way, the Ramai will say, "Okay, I give up. It wasn't me. It was only the 100. At least give me the 100." And that's why he'll come to say the truth. Okay, that was the case with money. Then it goes on, the same would be if there were two utensils, two vessels. One was worth $100, one was worth $1,000. First guy says, I gave you the expensive one to hold. He says, I gave you the expensive one to hold. So the Tanakama holds exactly like they said by the money, that you give the one of lesser value to one of them, and you give the value of the lesser one from the larger one, which may mean you have to break it, and or it means you sell it. There's different opinions.
It means for what? Like gold, you could.
If it would be gold, right? Shalom's explaining that if it's a precious metal like gold, then maybe you could take it apart and break it, and it still will have the value. You can still take the value. You can still take the smaller value from the larger one, and give it to the other fellow. And Vashar, the rest of the material, or the rest of the money, you leave it until Eliyahu comes. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. That's the opinion of Tanakama. Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Yossi argues. He says, so what does the liar lose out from this? He loses nothing. His opinion is consistent with what he said by the money, that you have to leave everything. Okay. If we go back to our first case, the first case was someone told two people that I stole from you 100. I stole from one of you 100, and I don't know who it was. So we said that he had to pay both of them. Gemara now says, Alma, we see, even though he has a doubt. Who does he owe it to? But that doubt is strong enough to extract money from him. We don't say that you leave the money in the possession of the one that it's in right now, and until you can prove it. Usually we'd say like prove who's who you owe it to, and then you'll pay. But over here it seems like even without proof, we're extracting it from this person, and we're giving it to the other person.
Stole someone or borrowed something from someone like 10 or 20 people.
Yeah, that's the Mishnah over there. Chamisha, if there's 5 people, that's what the Mishnah talks about.
We learned before we was 5.
Pay, right? So over here we're saying that he has to pay, even though there's no proof that it belongs to them. But we have a contradiction. It's from our Mishnah. What happened in the Mishnah? 2 people deposited money with fellow, and one gave 100, one gave 200. The halach is that you only give 100 back, according to Tanakama. You only give 100 back to each of them. And the third one, the third 100, you have to hold. So 1 second. Why don't we say the same thing? Why don't we say that you have to pay 200 to each of them? Right? Malay. This is very interesting, because I don't see the names of who's being asked here. Usually it would say like who asked who, and then it would say Amalei, he responded. Who's the Amalei? To who?
One scholar said to him.
One scholar said to another, is what he's telling me from the article. Okay, fine. You're asking from a deposit, you're asking that as a contradiction regarding theft. Gezel, the Avadi Surah, over there where he committed a crime, Kansura Rabbanan, so the rabbis put a penalty on him that he has to pay to each one. But over here, Pikadin, the Avadi Surah, but over here where it was just a deposit, we were supposed to be watching it for them. He didn't commit a crime. Like Kansura Rabbanan, so the rabbis didn't put a penalty on him. Okay, that would be a very decent answer if that's all the Mishnah said. The only problem is that the Mishnah says another case. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. What's it called when you ruin the movie or the book? Spoiler alert.
question, Rava. Could it be that he was the one previously that answered?
No, maybe. Let's see. So the Gemara says, 1 second. Gemara says, V'rami pikadna pikadna v'rami gesel gesel. I had more than one case in the Mishnah. I had another case in the Mishnah. I had a case also of a deposit where he has to pay twice. He has to pay to each one. And we have a case of a deposit where he doesn't have to, which was the case we just said. And right, you only pay 100 each. And we have a contradiction, another contradiction, which regarding robbery, theft. It says pikadna, when it comes to deposit on a deposit, which really there was no crime over there. The Ktani Reisha, where it says in the first case, not really the first case, it's the second of the first cases. It says, or one of your fathers deposited with me $100, and I can't remember which one it was. So the rule over there was, they has to give 100 to each of them, which means that he's paying more than he actually owed. And that's just a deposit. That's not theft. Before we thought the answer to this was, oh, it's theft, so we put a penalty on him. He stole. He doesn't remember who he stole. Here, it's not theft. He did nothing wrong. He just doesn't remember who deposited the money with him. And still, he has to pay both. For a mini, the problem is the printer of the Gemara didn't have the patience to finish the question, but he says etc. But the question is that we had a case where two people deposited money with one person. One gave 200, one gave 100, and he doesn't remember who was the 200, who was the 100, and each one is claiming 200, so he doesn't give it back. It's a contradiction, because according to the first cases of the Mishnah, he should have to give 200 to each. Amar Rava says, Reisha nasa k'misha fkidle b'shnei kriches, davle lemedak. Seifa nasa k'misha fkidle b'krach echad, le'avle lemedak. Going the afkidu tavayu b'hadi adadi b'chad zimna. The Amar lehu ant kufaycha lekaptisa adadi. Anak kapidna. Rava explains like this. Two people, in the first cases of the Mishnah, two people approached this fellow at different times. And each one gave him some money to watch. So it was his responsibility to remember who gave him how much. In the second case of the Mishnah, these two people approached him together and handed him the money as if it's in one bundle. And basically, he was hoping that they would be the ones to remember how much each of theirs was. So in the first case, where the responsibility was on him because they came separately, he was supposed to remember, okay, you gave me 100, you gave me 200, or actually the first case is actually where he's saying only one person came, but it doesn't matter. Even if there was another person there that gave him money, right? The same thing would apply. The reason is because that person didn't come together with the person that we're dealing with right now. Naftali, you follow?
Trying to understand what he did wrong. If he's given one satchel with $300 and he hands back a satchel with $300.
Right. That's what we're saying in the second case.
But what has he done wrong?
No, over there, when the two people approached him, one was with 100, one was with 200. Since they approached him at the same time, he understood that they trusted each other. They didn't hide from each other how much they're giving. And so he understood that they trust each other. So he also trusted them.
Okay.
So therefore, when each one's claiming 200 now, it wasn't his fault. And he gives them each back 100. And the other one, we tried to get we don't want to give the 100 to the wrong person, and he doesn't have to pay extra because he did nothing wrong. So we hold that till Eliyahu Navi comes. But in the first case, where this person approached him independently, and maybe there was another person there as well, but whatever the case is, he was responsible to keep track of how much this person gave him, or who the person was, so that he can give it back to him.
Does it matter whether he's getting paid or was paid in some way to do this?
I don't think so. It could even be a shemer chinam here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If the money was in a bundle, like,
That's coming up. That's coming up. That's going to be in the next case. Oh, you're talking about maybe you're referring to this. Or something else. Yeah.
but also like with money, so we learned that if it was in a bundle, that was, I don't remember very well. I know they had like special.
Right.
No, it's like different coins that are spread out. But they, when it was in a bundle, it was supposed to be
Here, the way the Gemara is putting it, it says if, because each one gave it to him together, even though it's wrapped up, even though whatever they gave them was wrapped up, but it's as if they gave it to him in one container. Because they were trusting each other. They didn't hide from each other how much they were giving. So he understood that they trusted each other and he wasn't concerned.
Yeah, that's why it probably leads up to this
Right.
thing, because he got it as one.
Right. Okay. His expression here is, if you weren't concerned about each other, you want me to be not trusting. Okay. Rami Gezel Gezel. Now we have the other contradiction, but not the deposit. Now we have the contradiction of the theft. Ktani over here it says, "Amalashnem Gazal Telechen Mikem Mana Veni Deis Mikem Ayav Shlechen Mikem Hifklin Mana Veni Deis Nice and Lazem Mana." Says, I stole from one of you and I can't remember who, or it was deposited by me $100 from one of your fathers and I can't remember who, so he has to give 100 to each. The problem is, for a mini, we have a contradiction. He stole from one of 5 people. He doesn't remember who. Each one's telling him, "You stole from me. You stole from me. It was mine. I'm the one that's missing. You stole from me." So the rule over there is Miniach Gazela B'Neim Mistalik to Reb Tarfon. Reb Tarfon holds that you just have to put it down and say, "Okay, fight it out."
This is the answer for this one.
First, tell me, what does Rabbi Kiva hold?
Is that he gives one to each
That's
person.
right. Rabbi Kiva says you have to pay each one, right?
There's
It
a
doesn't quote it over
contradiction to
here.
his other case.
Right, but over here we have Reb Tarfon. Reb Tarfon is saying that you just have to put the money down. In our Mishnah, we said that you have to pay each one.
That's because they sued him.
Oh, is that the reason? Shalom is saying because they sued him. So when they sue him, you have to pay each one, or when they sue him, you have to pay just one. Just
He
one.
admitted himself. That's a different story. They sued him.
Oh, and if he admits himself, then he has to pay more.
Yeah, because he admitted that he belonged to.
Uh-huh. Why does he have to pay more if he admits?
I don't know, because he admitted himself.
Okay, we'll see in a second. There's one detail there. We'll see in a second. Very good. Yeah, that's the correct answer.
Mean put one in front of him.
What does it mean?
He's put it in sometimes.
Oh, in the best in. Uh-huh.
If you put it with what's going to happen to it?
Right, they'll fight it.
Wasn't that the point?
Very good.
They fight it out.
No, the idea wasn't to make a fight over it.
I was going to say that we go with Rabbi Akiva's view, pays everyone when 4 or 5 are buying.
Right.
No, that's in a different. That's what in a different case. It's sister. You know, sometimes
It's
two people
what?
are arguing. You know, like sometimes two people are arguing, but they're arguing about 2 different stuff.
Yeah,
So that's happening here. Rabbi Akiva's having
Oh.
a case. It says.
Shalom is giving a share, so I'll tell you a sec.
If you and
Have a microphone so we can hear it on this side.
you never know for sure who stole from him. They're 100% sure and he's 50. Then maybe you have to pay.
Okay,
According
let's
to
see. We'll
Akiva,
see it. We'll see
on
it. So the Gemara starts off with a possible answer besides for what Shalom saying. It starts off with another answer first. It says, "Mimai de masnisin dacher Tarfani." 1 second. You're asking me a question from this Mishnah. Where is that in Baba Kama? It says, someone stole from 5 people, and then he has to pay. He just has to pay once. That's what Reb Tarfon holds. And over here, you say that you have to pay to each one. It's a contradiction. The Gemara says maybe it's not a contradiction. Maybe our Mishnah is the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, and we resolved everything.
Did
Not
we
a
skip a
country.
little part there?
Yeah, I skipped the line. 1 second. Alma misfekalem afkinam amayna. We see from this that, according to Reb Tarfon, that we don't extract money because of a doubt. That he holds on to it. Thank you. So the Gemara says, how do you know it's Reb Tarfon? How do you know it's Reb Tarfon? So the Gemara answers very quickly. It says, the Ktani Allah, because we have a brisa, Allah Dahi, we have a brisa that's taught on that Mishnah. A Maider Reb Tarfon, I think Ktani means a brisa, maybe not. Maider Reb Tarfon, that Reb Tarfon agrees that if he tells two people, exactly the case of our Mishnah, there's a brisa in that. Okay, in that Mishnah, we have another statement there that says, on that Mishnah, that Reb Tarfon would agree if he came to two people and said, I stole from one of you, that he actually has to give $100 to each of them. Even though Reb Tarfon holds usually if there's 5 people there, each one's claiming that he stole from them, so he only has to put $100 down for all of them. But in this case, he's going to agree with Rabbi Akiva if he's approaching the people and he's telling them that I stole from one of you, I don't know which one it was. Which is a case of our Mishnah as well. The Gemara answers this contradiction. So what we just did is we said, don't tell me that our Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva because Reb Tarfon also holds of our Mishnah. And now we have a contradiction. So the Gemara says, Hassam, the Kotavamine, over there, they're claiming from him. So he only has to give back once. But here he's coming to satisfy the hands of heaven, he has to pay to each one. Now, just before we explain that, it says, that was, when you go back to the Mishnah, by us, it says, because he admitted, he gave his own admission, he admitted on his own, so that's why he has to pay more. So it's not that if you admit, you're more guilty. It doesn't have to do with that. It has to do with, it depends what you're doing here. Are you coming to satisfy your spiritual obligation for Elam Haba, to make sure that you've satisfied everything? So for that, you have to actually pay each one. But if you're coming because the court is requiring you to pay, that's not happening, right? In our Mishnah, he's trying to satisfy the spiritual obligation. He stole and he wants to give it back, so he has to actually pay back each one to satisfy that. But in the other Mishnahs, they're claiming to him that he stole. He wants to pay as little as possible. He's not interested. He just wants to know what the court's going to require. So for that, the court only requires that he pays once. Yeah.
Here, the thief holds on to the item until comes. The rightful claimant will be denied the use of it. So the only way that he feels like giving it back is just paying it. That's why.
You're answering a different question. You're answering, why don't we say that you hold it until Eliyahu Navi comes?
No, it's not.
Why don't we say that? Why don't we say that? We said it in the other case, right? And so the answer is that because you won't be able to it's coming up. Mother and the son. Right. Okay. We'll see when we turn the page. But Hillel's asking, why is there some cases we say you just put it aside because we don't know who it is, and then in some cases we say no, you have to pay each one. And what's the answer?
The rightful owner won't have access to his money, and the only way.
I know, but by also the rightful owner doesn't have access to his money. This is a discussion in the first Tosfos of the Masechta, the second Tosfos of the Masechta.
It's not like all the thieves could say that. Oh, I'm not sure, and when the Navi comes, I'll pay whoever.
Yeah.
I think it says over here. It says in the case where the guy was responsible, right? The Shemer was obligated and responsible to watch it, so therefore he has to pay. He has to pay everybody, and therefore, in the eyes of heaven, he also was responsible and therefore would have to face retribution. But in the case where he wasn't expected to pay, even in the eyes of heaven, he was not expected. He doesn't. There's no retribution, and therefore that's why he could just leave it till Yonah become.
Yeah, very good. Very good. What about when he stole from 5 people? He doesn't know who he stole from. According to Rabbi Akiva, well, we're dealing with Reb Tarfon right now. According to Reb Tarfon, you have to pay each one. Obviously, you're guilty, so you stole. The person stole. But according to Rabbi Akiva, we won't say Yehimunah. We won't say that you put it aside. Why not? He's just paying one person. Oh, because there's no Ramai. Over there's no Ramai. He's the Ramai. He's the liar. He's the liar. Yeah, that's a different. This is a different case. Okay. Oh, there is a liar by the 5. He didn't steal from all 5. He only stole from one of them. They're all liars. There's 4 liars there. Oh, but they didn't lose anything. They're not lose over here. You see, each one deposited $100. So each one deposited either 100 or 200. So because he's claiming 200, he's now losing the 100 as well. According to Rabbi Yossi, you're saying not according to Rabbi Yossi, where we're not concerned about my Hifsid Rame. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, it's not perfect. Amar Mar, but what Zalman's saying is correct. Zalman's saying is that he was responsible to remember who deposited with him, either who he stole from or who deposited with him. So so that's why he has to pay. That's why the obligation is more. It's not perfect. We're missing something. Amar Mar, the master taught Hassam the Katavile Valamatayan. We said that over there, in the case of when each one is claiming that you stole from me, and there were 5 people, each one's claiming for him, and he only has to give, according to Reb Tarfon, he only has to pay $100. He puts it down in front of them, and that's it. Halamatayan, what is he claiming? Each one is saying that you stole from me. What does he say? Rav Yudah Marav ala Shesek. Rav Yudah says in the name of Rav that he's being quiet. Rav Masna Marav. Rav Masna says in the name of Rav ala Tzavach. Tzeveach. He's screaming. Mandam ala Tzeveach. The one that says that he's screaming, he says Avostika Kaida. But if he would be quiet, then that would be like he's admitting. Mandam ala Shesek. But the one that says that he's quiet, Stika Dachalab Kaido. Just because he's quiet, that doesn't mean he's admitting. Metzia Daf could say, "Hi, the shtiki l'chol chad v'chad amina til mahayu." I'm not admitting. I'm just saying I don't know which one it is. I'm quiet to each one. I don't know. Okay, so it seems to be like a machlekes about shtika kaida. If it's always shtika kaida, or if it's being silent is like you're admitting. Amar Mar. We learned before. Miniach gezela b'neim mastalik. You put the money down in front of them, and then you walk away. Talking about with the 5, you stole from 5 people. The problem is, b'shakli kula v'asli. 1 second. The guy, the person that lost the money may never end up getting his money back. We have a statement like this, that anything that was possibly, this is talking about Aveda, going back 1 chapter, any Aveda, any lost item that was placed down in a protected area that doesn't have a siman on it. You're not sure if it was placed there, and you're not sure if it was dropped there. So it's called Safek Kinuach. So it says, don't take it. Because if you take it, then you're not going to be able to return it to the person. First of all, it's protected anyway. It's not going to it's going to get lost or something. It's not outside in the rain or something. So it's protected. So it says don't take it. And if he takes it, he should not return it to someone that says that it's his. That's one shot over here. Layachse. We learned layachse is don't put it back. That was the way Taisus learned before. Rashi over here says layachse means you don't give it back to the person that says that it's his because he doesn't have a simon. Rather, what do? You leave it until Eliyahu Navi comes. So our question is, why over here are we just saying, do we say you just put it down and you walk away? And over there, you don't say put it down and walk away. You say you have to hold on to it until it gets clarified. Rav Safra says v'yaniach that when it says that you put it down and walk away, it doesn't mean that you put it down in front of the 5 people and walk away. It's you put it down in the Bezdin, and the Bezdin will determine who it was taken from. You have to wait for witnesses or whatever.
Wasn't this a Takanis person?
Oh yeah, I don't remember.
It was a Takana that was
Yeah.
A while ago?
yeah. The day I toured the Rabbi talking about. Okay. Yeah.
Sure. The notes there, that if it's clear that the item was like hidden, like in a place that's when you shouldn't touch it.
Yeah,
Right.
that's kind of
What about if
something
it's a
to know.
suffix Hinoach? If it's possibly hidden, that's what we're learning here. The same thing, that you shouldn't touch it if it doesn't have a simon. Oh, you're talking about yeah. Hill is quoting to the case if there was something that was placed covered over in the garbage. Right? That was the Gemara that we learned. That you don't take it. It depends which garbage. Right? Yeah. Very good. Sharp today. It's because of the cookies. Okay. Amalei Abayel Rav. Baya says to Rav, Mi Amar Rabbi Akiva. Lezu aderech Metzia Midei Avera. Shishal Gzel Echad Vechad Al Misveka Mafkinan Memayna V'Leimrinu Kamayna B'Cheskas Mari. Does Rabbi Akiva say that on that Mishnah before, when someone stole from 5 people, he doesn't know who it was. So Rabbi Tarfon says you just put it down, and Rabbi Akiva then responds to that. He says that is this the way that you get out of doing a punishment from doing an avera? You have to pay back to each one, which means basically that that even though there's a doubt to who he owes it to, but nevertheless we extract the money because of a doubt, and we don't say keep the money in the possession of the owner. The problem is we're a mini, but we have a contradiction. Shalom mentioned this before. Let's say a house collapsed and it collapsed on a woman and her son, which means that now they're both not alive. The question is, the woman had women had possessions that she inherited from her family, not from the kid's father, from her family, and her family, her siblings or whatever, is coming along and saying that the son died first, and all of the woman's possessions should go to us because he never inherited the mother. And the son's inheritors are saying that the mother died first. All the possessions went to the son. Now the son died, and we inherit from the son. They're arguing over who died first to get the possessions. So it says like this: Yershe ben Aimer mei meis rishon. The inheritors of the son say the mother died first, and v'Yershe Aimer ben meis rishon. And the inheritors of the mother say that the son died first.
In this case, whether have it has it.
And Elo Velo Maidim, both over there, there's other machlekes in between Bisham and Basil. Bisham and Basil will agree she'achleiku that you divide it. You divide the inheritance. Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva says that you leave the property and you don't divide it. And who is becheskasan? the Gemara over there discusses. Rashi doesn't tell me who it's. Do you have a note over there? Who it's? It must be not so clear. When it says you leave it in its assumed state, but which one is the assumed state? Is that the mother's or is that the son's?
It just says the one with a greater claim to it.
They discuss it in the Basra. Okay. Whoever has the greater claim. Okay. Right from here, we don't see who has the greater claim.
You cut a TV,
So
it's taller. Who died on the what part? Because their work fell. I think that hurts.
Right. But the problem, Shalom is the what's it called? These detectives. What's they figure out at a crime scene? Forensic detective. Yeah. The problem is that when you learn the Gemara, you have to try to make a case where the Gemara's case fits. So it must be a case where you actually couldn't tell, the forensic detective couldn't tell which part fell first and all of that.
Well, if one's taller than the other, you can tell.
Yeah, so we're talking about a case where they were both the same size.
At one point, you're saying, well, this, that.
Right.
Which will never happen.
You have to try to figure out a case where the Gemara works, right? What am I looking at? 11. The Mishnah there discusses other cases of two people being killed in uncertain order by a collapse of a house. In those cases, Beishamir, the property question is divided. So rules that that's a machlekes Beishamir. So okay.
I heard that they hold the same thing.
In this case, they hold the same thing. Both will agree here that you divide it. That's what it means. Elu ve'elu. Both these and these admit that you divide it. There's an Amaraik dispute in Baba Basra. Okay, very good.
Yesterday we were discussing the Malach HaMavis.
Oh yeah.
It's already slamming the dead, it didn't make a difference. So they both died there, and obviously Malach HaMavis took care of it. Why are we arguing over seconds of who was on top, who was on this and that? Why don't we use the answer from yesterday? Hey, Malach HaMavis said they're on this and that, and then we did with the. That's why the answer is a chazaka. Whoever owned it last, that's who owned it. Which you can't.
But you don't have someone that owned it last.
Yeah, the wife owned it last. It was her property.
So okay, so now give it to the son. He inherited it.
No, that's what I'm saying. You can't go to the next step because Malach HaMavis took them both out of the picture. So the last known owner was.
But there is no last known owner. There's two inheritors, each one claiming.
But the last known inheritor was the wife who owned it.
Yeah, but now she has two inheritors. She has her cousin, her whatever, her sister, whatever, and then she has her son.
But his son's not there anymore. Neither she.
Okay, but the son has his relatives. Oh, you're saying ignore the son. Okay.
Yeah, I get
I'm
what you
ignoring
mean.
them both. You know, nowadays we have trusts. I mean, one can write, and the trust can say, in the event that this child is no longer there, it goes to the grandchild. So it's written ahead of time. But obviously, they didn't have it.
Yeah. You're right. You have a point.
Well,
okay. So the Gemara answers like this. Amarle, this was a conversation between Abaye and Rava. Abaye is asking the contradiction to Rava. He says, how could Rabbi Kiva say that we extract money? We don't leave it in its assumed status. The problem is Rabbi Kiva says, says that you do leave it on its assumed status. The contradiction in Rabbi Akiva. So the Gemara answers, Amalei Hasam Shema v'Shema. When it came to the Chasim b'Chaskasan, when it came to the case of where the house fell, so we leave it because no one knows who died first. How are they supposed to know who died first? But Gazal Echad Mechamisha, that's a Bari v'Shema. Each one over there is claiming that you stole from me. So over there, what happens Bari v'Shema? If there's a Bari, a definite person and a maybe person, the Bari Adif.
Doesn't know who he stole from.
Right, exactly. So over there, Bari v'Shema, we say Bari Adif, so he has to pay to each one. It's impossible to be a Bari by who died first in the house. It's just speculation. But Masnizin Dahachab, what about our Mishnah? Over there, when he says, I stole from one of you, they're not claiming anything. Over there, it's also a shema v'shema. Uktani naisim zeman al zeman. Over there, it says he has to pay to both. It's not a bari ubari. It's not a bari v'shema. It's a shema v'shema. Mimai de Rabbi Akiva. But 1 second. How do you know it's Rabbi Akiva? You're asking me from Rabbi Akiva that says you have to pay to everyone. Rabbi Akiva says that by shema shema you leave it in its assumed status if it's a doubt. And over there you say by a doubt you have to pay to everyone. But the Gemara says maybe it's not Rabbi Akiva. It says no, it has to be Rabbi Akiva. So it says that Reb Tarfon would agree in that case. Reb Tarfon would agree, even though Reb Tarfon usually says that you can just put it in front of them and walk away. But in that case, Reb Tarfon agrees that you have to pay to each one. The Gemara asks, Laman Maida, who's he agreeing to? It must be Lav, or not Lav. Rabbi Kiva Bar Plute must be is agreeing to Rabbi Kiva, which means that Rabbi Kiva holds the same thing, that you have to pay to each one. Kiva says you have to pay to each one. Why did he say that by the house, that when it collapses, that you just leave it in its assumed status? You don't have to give to each one. Gemara says, how do you know that our Mishnah is a case of Shema v'Shema? It says Chada, first of all, like Katani Tevim, they say, because it doesn't say that they're claiming from him. But then also, the Brisa that Reb Chia taught on this, it actually says that each one says, I don't know. So the Gemara answers, you're forgetting the answer that we said before. We already answered this question. We said, but there Rabbi Kiva is not saying what the halacha is. Rabbi Kiva is saying someone that wants to satisfy his obligation to heaven, he would have to pay to both. Also, it's a funny question over here because we only have a certain amount of possessions that are coming from this household. What are you supposed to do? The wife, the mother died, and the son died, and now we don't know who to give the inheritance to. Is the Gemara suggesting that somehow we reproduce that money, so now there's two, and then you get like, what is it suggesting? Unless it's only the opposite. Maybe what it's suggesting is just by the case of the theft, just put it where it was assumed status until now, which maybe means hold on to it or something, and you don't have to give to everyone. So we answer that no, over there he was trying to satisfy his obligation to heaven.
Doesn't mandate in each one. He just makes a suggestion. While Rabbi Akiva holds that he has to pay each person.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, is that quoting Taisvas? Hillel is quoting from one of the notes that although Reb Tarfon agrees to Rabbi Akiva, but there's still a slight difference. According to Reb Tarfon, the halach is that he really just puts it down in front of them, but to satisfy the hands of heaven, he has to pay each one. And so what would Rabbi Akiva say? Rabbi Akiva says that he has to pay each one, but it's also to satisfy heaven, right?
And it also mentions the case of the 5 and the Romans, more than this.
That you have to pay each one. Oh, Rabbi Kiva says you have to pay each one anyway. Okay. So it's Reb Tarfon that's explaining that the Balat is Yidei Shemayim. According to Rabbi Kiva, I don't need that. I don't need to say Balat is Yidei Shemayim. So why over there? Like now this is getting complicated. So why by the house? We were asking a contradiction between the house that collapsed and when he stole from two people.
The house is different because it's not sleeping.
Very good. That's an answer. That's an answer for Reb Tarfon. Because Reb Tarfon was concerned about Balat Yisidei Shemayim. But what about the actual halacha? Oh, maybe what Rabbi Akiva is saying is that it was a takana. Maybe that's what Dr. Stein was telling us. That according to Rabbi Akiva, there's a takana that he has to pay. It's not just his own free will.
And then here, this one like the halacha in the house collapse.
Yeah, the halacha is fine. Halacha. Okay. Amar le Ravina le Ravashi. Ravina says to Rashi, Mi Amar Rava. Does Rava say kol b'shtei krichas havale lemeda, that if it comes in two bundles, then he's supposed to be the one to make sure that he remembers who gave him what. One gave 100, one gave 200, or whatever it is. It's his responsibility. Or when over there it wasn't the case of one gave 100, one gave 200. Over there it was responsibility to remember who gave him, who he took the money from, right? So, or 100, 200. Rava said, and some say Rav Papa said. Rav Papa was a student of Rava, so the Gemara sometimes doesn't know who it was from.
Also, and not just Rava, also Baya.
And the Baya, you're right. It says Hakol Maidim. Everyone agrees that if two people gave to a shepherd, maybe an animal, and then each one is claiming it back, that the shepherd just has to put it in front of them and walk away. So, 1 second, shouldn't he have been more careful to remember who gave it to him? They were talking about that he put it into his flock without notifying the shepherd, and it just went along with it. Okay, we have two cases in the Mishnah. One case was two people deposited money, one was 100 and one was 200, and then when it comes to claiming, each one's claiming the 200. Then we had another case. Two people gave a utensil for the person to watch. One was worth 100 and one was worth 1,000. And so when it comes to collecting, each one says, I gave the one that was 1,000. It was two Rolexes. One was real and one was fake. So he said, I gave the real one. So it says, we need both cases. If we would only have the case of the money, 100 and 200, over there, the rabbi say, over there, there's no loss. So the rabbi say, give 100 to each, and you hold the third 100. But over here, where you have to break the utensil, maybe they would agree to Rabbi Yaisi that you don't give anything back. And if we would only say the utensil, over there, Rabbi Yaisi says you don't give anything back because you're going to break it. But if it's just money, so who cares? Give 100 to each. Gemara says that's why it's necessary to say both cases. Gemara says 1 second. You just made up a new problem for Rabbi Yaisi. Rabbi Yaisi wasn't concerned about that. Rabbi Yaisi had a totally different concern. Time of the Rabbi Yaisi Mishum Hefsed Aramai. Rabbi Yaisi wouldn't give it back anyway. Rabbi Yaisi wants the one that's lying to lose, so that he should come forward and admit. Rather, we need both cases because of what the rabbis would say. And the way it's working is like this: the first case, the truth is that if it would have said the second case first, then I wouldn't need the first case. It would have said about the utensil that even though you're going to have to break it in order to give him his his portion of the 100, but nevertheless we do that, and even though there's a loss, so for sure if it's just money, for sure you would do the same thing. You would give 100 to each. However, the Mishnah doesn't talk like that. The Mishnah starts off first with the case that's less obvious, and then it goes to the Mishnah case with the case that's more obvious, and then it goes to the bigger chiddush, to the case that's a bigger chiddush, that's less obvious. So because it started with the case, which that's how we wanted to set it up. It starts with the case of the money, and then it comes to not only this, but even a bigger chiddush. The Rabbanan will still say that you have to break the vessel in order to give the 100 to the other party. Let's leave it over here. Have a good Shabbos, everyone.
That's not the